Hey guys, thank you for joining us for today's Mat Chat. My name is Mike Torres, and this is the other half of Torres Jiu-Jitsu.
Maggie Torres.
We wanted to kind of discuss today about a lot of things, kind of revolving around goal setting, different accomplishments, time management, really just kind of finding balance in like everyday day-to-day lives, right? I think typically, everyone who does jiu-jitsu is just your just an average person who has a day-to-day job and family, but also has the ambitions and goals to either compete or to one day achieve a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Definitely.
Right? So it's kind of what we want to talk about today, right?
All right, sounds good.
So with Maggie, one thing I want to say about her is that, this is obviously my wife, right? She's pretty cool. And, she's faced some different difficult challenges in the past, as far as like with competition, helping me manage and run the gym, things like that. So is there anything you kind of want to share along those lines?
It's been a journey. I think the one thing that's been pretty consistent has just been like making sure that I'm able to get to jujitsu. Like that's my priority, even if I'm not always able to like be preparing for a tournament. My like one kind of non-negotiable is I have to be able to get to training. Like I trained through 8 months of my pregnancy. I trained through a lot of different illnesses. I trained through graduate school. I trained through 2 degrees at this point. So it's just like, for me, it's a non-negotiable. It's just like, I have to get to training.
Yeah. I think, ambition definitely carries a lot of people in that kind of direction, right? But it's not easy, obviously, to do. If it was easy, then everybody would do it. But it does take a certain level of like discipline and accountability and really a self-awareness and selfishness to be able to accomplish a lot of those things, right? So let's talk specifically about the time where you were preparing for the Pan American Championships as a purple belt, all while was it doing a master's program?
Everything. Yeah.
And there was some different things that kind of occurred during that year as well. That was very challenging.
That was that was by far like the worst year on record. A few months before the Pan American Championships, my dad passed away, and that's obviously that's difficult for anybody, obviously. But my dad passed away, and he was a big motivator, like in my jiu-jitsu journey. He was like a big part of why it was something that I love to do and why I felt like it's something I needed to do. He was always very encouraging about make sure that you're doing things that make you uncomfortable, get outside of your comfort zone. So losing somebody who is like a giant, like in my eyes, was already really challenging. On top of that, I was finishing up a master's program. I was finishing up training for school, and then redoing kind of another certification. So I was in 2 certification programs and a master's degree program. And if I remember correctly, we were just starting up Torres Jiu-Jitsu too. Yeah. So we're also trying to hey, come train at our new gym. And so balancing also working full time was a struggle, to say the least. But for me, there was never an option like that I wasn't going to train. It was, okay, what's going to go on the back burner so that I can train?
Yeah.
I don't think I ever really had a moment where I was like, oh, well, I'm in graduate school, so too bad I can't train now. It was always just, okay, well, I'm gonna have to make sure that I do my classes at this time and I get this work done at this time so that I can be on the mat. And I don't know if that's like a normal kind of reaction that people have, or if that's just because I have an obsessive personality.
Yeah.
And
I think we both do.
Yeah. I don't think that the average, I think jiu-jitsu is for everybody, but I don't think that the average person is maybe quite as obsessed with jiu-jitsu necessarily as we are. And I'm sure there are definitely people out there, but I think we've kind of always been like, this is a priority. We're going to find a way to make it happen. Whereas I don't think that everybody feels that way. And I'm not sure if it's healthy or unhealthy, but I know that for me, it's like mentally, it's absolutely something that I need. Like, remember during COVID, we were like not training for a little bit. Yes. We're like at each other's throats. Yes. It's horrible.
Yeah. And I think, again, being selfish about your time is really, really important. I think a lot of people, we have them come through the academy, or, I've met them through other academies or jiu-jitsu. They talk about wanting to compete more, be more consistent with classes. And then they get resistance in different areas of their life, whether it be from work or home life, And I think sometimes you just kind of have to set that boundary, but you also have to understand okay, why am I doing this? Yeah. Why am I doing jiu-jitsu? Am I doing jiu-jitsu because it's just something to keep me busy? Or am I doing jiu-jitsu because I want to be healthy? Am I doing jiu-jitsu because I want to improve my mental health? Am I doing jiu-jitsu because I want to be more goal-oriented? right?
Yeah.
Do I want to step up my quality of life to the next level, right? And you could do all of those things while training martial arts. And then not just say like jiu-jitsu specifically, but really in any martial art, you know, if this is something you really want to take serious, it's going to require a certain level of selfishness.
Yeah, your why is important, and I think a lot of people forget that. Like I think the average person probably doesn't frame the rest of their life around jiu-jitsu. And very clearly that's something that we've done. I mean, now we're running a jiu-jitsu academy so we can be around jiu-jitsu as often as possible. But it's just not, it's a priority. It's not something I was willing to give up. I played rugby for a really long time, and I would always get like flack from friends. They're like, oh, why are you at training? Why are you're always here. You're always here. I'm like, yeah, I am, because I want to be the best. Yeah. And I still feel that way about it. Like, even leading up to Pan Ams, people were like, you know, you're going through a lot of stressful things, take a break. And I'm like, no, I think this is going to be my motivation to do even more. And I won Pan Ams that year. And I think that was like, all of that adversity made it that much sweeter. I was like, I am going to literally change all of these different aspects of my life to ensure that I'm able to train jiu-jitsu as often as possible, and that I'm able to bring home that gold medal for my dad. Like, that was like my main motivator. And I don't think somebody has to have necessarily like something tragic that happens to them, but I think you need to find your why, because your why is what keeps you on the mat. Yeah. And no one ever regrets going to training. I've never had heard anyone say, man, well, I shouldn't have gone to training today. I don't feel better, you know?
Yeah. That's very true. I think, you know, today is a prime example for me. You know, we're getting ready for Pan Nogi this weekend, and the past couple of weeks have been pretty rough. You know, kind of got sick last week and things like that. And just today, you know, with our toddler, who is really resistant and sleeping in and likes to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you know, they didn't really want to let me sleep in. So I didn't have no choice but to kind of be up. But it kind of threw my day off a lot. And I was like, man, I'm not going to go today, because I'm going to compete in 2 days. Typically for me, when I get ready for competition, I'm sweating all the way up till like 2 days before the competition, right? So I'll take off Friday and then I'll compete Saturday. And that's only because I know I need to keep my timing sharp. I know I need to keep my muscles warm. I know I want to feel, you know, be a part of feel the mat more essentially, because it's just something that helps me put myself in a better mental space in preparation for competition.
Definitely.
And it's something that I've learned to do throughout years of competing and things like that. And you know, it makes a difference when you kind of have those, you know, those goals and those like standards of what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and you're scheduling things the right way, right? So
I think to add on to that too, like, I feel like when you train jiu-jitsu and you're a person who's training often, when your teammates are competing, like, it's not just them that's competing, you're competing too. Yeah. Every time somebody here, like whether it's you or it's Jeremy or it's Christian or it's Steve, whoever, when you go to competition, I'm going into competition too, because I need to be in training, because I already know there are days where I want to skip or I don't want to be there. And I'm like, they might need that body. They might need that extra person training. Like it really is, like, we say it's an individual sport, but it's 100% a team effort. Like, I think this sport has really made me kind of have to change my mindset a lot about whether I just don't have time to do something. I think that's a pretty frequent like excuse that I have and that I've used in the past. Like, I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to lift. I don't have time to spend with Cairo and then come to the gym. And I had to start telling myself to change the way that I was wording that and say, it's not that I don't have time. I had to start saying, instead of saying, I don't have time to go to jiu-jitsu, I said, it's not a priority for me to go to jiu-jitsu. Yeah. And the second I said that, I was like, ooh, that's a problem. I need to go to jiu-jitsu. And it changed my entire mindset. If you change things from, I don't have time to do this, to, well, actually, it's just not a priority for me. Yeah. It makes you realize that like you kind of have, there's levels to this.
And kind of like what I was saying before is like, you never, like you said, you know, you never regret going to training. So even regardless of how tired I feel, fatigued I feel, or I just don't feel like going that day, you know, if I do go, I'm so glad that I trained today and was able to get that sweat in, because now I feel like that was like the cherry on the top for me just to end my training camp for this. You know? And, but yeah, it's like, those are some really good, you know, things to kind of consider when it is, you know, what is a priority to you. For me, jiu-jitsu is just, when I first discovered jiu-jitsu, it was something that taught me how to control myself in a way that I didn't have. You know, I didn't have much emotional control growing up, or any real healthy outlets other than sports, you know, as a kid. But once you become an adult and those sports are kind of out of the equation, well, your natural coping mechanism is now gone, right? So then as a 20-year-old, in the Army who's developing really bad habits and really bad, not being influenced by the right people, I was making a lot of poor decisions and almost getting kicked out of the Army. But when I found jiu-jitsu, it was that thing that filled that empty space for me.
Yeah.
So because it filled that empty space for me, it made me realize that I lacked motivation and I lacked aspiration because I didn't have anything to look forward to, or I didn't have a goal to get ready for. Once I discovered jiu-jitsu, it gave me a goal, because then I discovered, oh, I love this. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I'm going to be a black belt.
Yes.
I'm going to be an academy owner.
And it's when you make that switch, like I think what you pointed out, like with like a lot of us, when we have high school sports, we've got like a community, we have all these things, and then all of a sudden you become an adult and you don't necessarily have that, and you forget to prioritize yourself, and you have kids and you have a job and you have all these things like that, and you feel like you have to be motivated to do something. And I think like the problem with that is that like if you're relying on being motivated, you're never going to be there. Like you can't just be motivated, you have to be disciplined, you have to be dedicated. Like being motivated to do something doesn't mean that I'm necessarily going to get up and do it, but if I have the discipline to do it, like that's why I think that time management in terms of like structure, there were days where like we literally would write on the calendar, training 6 p.m. That's a non-negotiable. We're going to be there. And it is hard when you have a toddler. I know like a lot of the parents out there, we're a family gym. So like I'm always super impressed with the families that come to train here, who bring their kids to the gym day in and day out to be here, because they realize you can't be the best version of yourself for your kid if you're not prioritizing anything for yourself.
Exactly.
You have to like do things for yourself so that you can be better. And I think it makes me a better parent to some degree. It makes me more patient.
100% agree.
Yeah, more understanding. So
yeah, it definitely makes me a better parent, because now when I have all this like extra energy, I feel I get easily aggravated about things, stupid things, things that I really shouldn't let get to myself. But then when I go train and then I come back, and you've seen it firsthand, days where I've been, cranky and moody and just wasn't feeling right and something was off, and then I'll go train, then I come back and it's like I'm a totally different person. Was because jiu-jitsu genuinely is my medicine in a lot of ways. It helps me clear my mind and help me deal with the day-to-day stress of natural things that make us stress, but yeah. And then another thing I want to talk about too is kind of like injuries, right? I think injuries is obviously like the number one thing that kind of keeps people from doing things actively, like active things, right? Or injuries also prevent people from coming back to jiu-jitsu or anything else.
I understand that. I feel like I am probably not the most empathetic person in this field, because I have had a ton of injuries. And I think I understand. I think sometimes especially when you love jiu-jitsu, if you're injured and you can't roll, it's really hard to want to come and watch. Yeah. But something I learned, and this is a lot of things I've learned in rugby, I've kind of transferred over to jiu-jitsu for me. One of my coaches said, you're still a part of the team. You're an essential part of the team, whether you're here, whether you're hurt or not, you're here. And he was right. So if I was injured, I would come sit on the sideline, hobble my butt down the field, cheer for people, because like, you are a part of the team. You should be watching those trainings. I never wanted, and this is where the obsession comes in. Like, Conor McGregor, when they ask him what makes him so good, he's like, this is not like motivation. This is not dedication. This is obsession. This is where the obsession comes in. I did not want people to get so far ahead of me that I was ever behind. If I like missed a day of training, I was like taking notes. I was watching it. If I was sick, I'd be there with the mask on the side. Like I'm going to be at training. So even like when I've been injured here, this is my community. So I'm still going to come in, and part of it is because I'm social. I want to see my friends, but also like, I want to learn. You can learn a lot from watching rounds. You can learn a lot from watching rolls. And some of the things that I've learned have actually been from when I've taken a step back, I've sat out and been able to watch. Being pregnant for 8 months, like taught me a lot about how to roll with different types of people, because people were learning how to roll with me. It taught me about like knowing your limits, knowing your boundaries, but then also being able to kind of train with limitations and still get a useful training out of it. I'm not saying everyone should be pregnant, but it was a pretty useful thing to learn. It helped me a lot.
Yeah, and I another thing too is like when you do play sports as a kid, other sports, whether it's like soccer, football, rugby, something, your coach, just like you said, your coach just says you're still part of the team. That's something that you learn like naturally as you're younger. It's like, okay, I'm injured, I have this injury, but my coach still wants me to dress out. My coach still wants me to show up. He wants me to be a part of the team because he knows that I play a crucial part in our team.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the same thing here. Everybody that is our part as a member here, it plays a crucial part of our team.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care if you're on the mat or not, but I'd rather you be here than not be here.
Yeah.
Right? And even if you're on the side of the mat, you know, if you're just, you know, talking banter to somebody, or if you're recording something for your own personal notes, or you're writing down notes. I mean, Christian came in the other day, and you know, he wanted to take a day off because he's competing this weekend, and he knew he was going to get one last hard sweat session is today. So he comes in last night, regular clothes, not training, not dressed out, sits on the side of the mat on the chair, and asks questions during the instruction.
Yeah.
And I invite that, right? I think I invite that because, again, I'd rather you be here than not be here. And again, with injuries, I always tell people, you know, you're going to get injured no matter what.
Yeah.
You know, whether you're doing tennis, golf, football, right? Whatever things that are out there, you know, anything you do in life, you're going to find some sort of injury that's going to kind of cause some sort of setback, right? Mm-hmm. But it's up to you to be proactive in your recovery.
Definitely.
Not sitting here and feeling sorry for yourself that, oh, I have this injury, you know, so I'm going to miss out on training. And now I'm just going to put more time on me, more time for me to get my blue belt. And I got to wait longer to get my blue belt, my purple belt, my brown, my black belt, you know? And then I think what happens is, again, you start to feel sorry for yourself. You start to feel demoralized. You start to feel like that goal that you've been working so hard to achieve is now a little bit further away from you. But again, it's not further than when you started as a white belt. It's only further from the point that you got injured.
Yeah.
But it only gets further away from you the longer that you sit there and you don't do something proactive to recover from your injury, and also learning how to train your mind and visualize yourself applying these techniques. Visual learning and visualizing, closing your eyes and meditating is a great learning tool when it comes to physical activities, because it's going to teach you how to envision or to anticipate people's movements.
Definitely.
You know? Those are just some things that I find that work really well for me, right? And again, like let's say you have a pretty severe injury and that requires you to have surgery, you know, do what you got to do, get the surgery, make sure you go see the PT, make sure you're going home and you're doing the things that are necessary to help you heal faster, okay?
And anytime I've been injured, I've been like, okay, well, I have to be out, but now I have to figure out how to get faster, how to like get better faster proactively so I can go back to jiu-jitsu, which is like, maybe not. Maybe I should be thinking like, oh, so that I can like, you know, hang out with my son, or I can do my job well. And like all of these things are like, I'm just dangling the jiu-jitsu there. Like, okay, I have to be able to get back to this.
Yeah.
So
I think, you know, we also kind of suffer from or struggle with fear of missing out, you know, FOMO. So, and kind of like what you said, like you kind of have like this competitiveness. It's like a natural competitiveness amongst your peers. You know, you don't want people getting better than you, right? You want to be better with them. You want to grow with them.
It's more competition with myself. Like, it's not like I don't want anyone to get better than me. It's that I don't want to be missing out on that. I want to get better with them. I want to grow the team. I want to grow the opportunities that we have, you know? Yeah.
I think that right there is, you know, key. That's something that really hit home for me when I first started jiu-jitsu was I wanted to be so good at it so fast. You know, I became obsessed with it that I would study videos all day.
You still do?
I mean, you can look at my phone on my notes. You'll see a ridiculous amount of notes on my phone of things that I've like thought about, you know, as I'm trying to go to sleep. So I'm like, man, that technique I just thought of, or I just visualized, is a solid technique. Let me write it down so I won't forget it.
Yeah.
So then what happens, I start writing that down, and then all of a sudden I'm up another 20, 25 minutes thinking about how that specific technique I just thought about advances or progresses into different things, you know? But again, you know, you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. And you have to have this kind of talk with yourself to say, hey, is this something that I'm willing to put a little bit more extra into, extra of myself? Am I willing to be a little bit more selfish with my time? Am I going to make some people upset because I'm trying to improve my life? Yeah, why not? Who cares if they get upset? Who cares if they get mad at you because you missed this event? Go do the thing that's going to help you in your life. Go do the thing that's going to make you healthy. Go do the thing that's going to get you ahead. Just makes sense. Be selfish, you know?
I mean, we might just be obsessed.
I have something to say about it. But that's kind of where I stand on it. Is anything else you would like to add to that?
No, just train.
Yeah, just train. Just
get on the mat.
Just shut up and train. Right? just a few tips I think for you guys that are out there that are thinking about, that probably in the beginning phases or a few months of jiu-jitsu. If you want some tips I could give you guys is just to don't put too much of a ridiculous expectation on yourself about promotions and about getting really good at jiu-jitsu. You will naturally get good at jiu-jitsu.
The more you get beat up.
The more you get beat up, the more you show up. The more you show up, the better you will get. It's just going to naturally work out that way. Okay. Again, what you put into it, you'll get out of it.
The only way to get better at jiu-jitsu is by doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. And don't sit here and try to chase a belt, right? If your intentions are to go to a gym and be, hey, I want to be a blue belt in this time frame. Well, I'm sorry, but you're going to probably be disappointed. Okay. Because again, life happens. Life gets in the way. You might have to step away. Something happens or an injury happens. It might set you back, right? But then what happens, like I said before, that setback is going to demoralize you and it's only going to keep you from coming back. Okay. So instead of having these massive expectations for yourself, give yourself little goals. I'm going to lose this much weight. I'm going to do a competition in 3 months. I'm going to train 20 days consistently, 20 classes consistently. I'm going to train 100 classes consistently, right? I'm going to not let my professor tap me out 6 times in one round. Whatever that motivation is, find it, grab it, hold on to it, and just run with it. Okay. But that's pretty much it. That's all I got.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Thank you guys. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Please feel free to share and do not hesitate to send us either of us a message on some topics that you would like for us to discuss about jiu-jitsu, obviously, because we love jiu-jitsu. All right, guys. You have a good night or a good day, and I'll see you guys next time.